Hey everyone, I want to share something with you that's actually pretty easy for me to talk about, but I believe that someone out there needs to hear this. Matter of fact, I know there are, because I know there's a lot of drinkers in this country. But this is my story of alcoholism, cirrhosis, and how I found a way forward. So if you're struggling, I hope this gives you hope. So I drank really heavy for about 25 years. I got sober at 55. I have 2 years and a couple months and a few days of sobriety. But so I drank really heavy for a long time, 25 years, and it wasn't beer, it was hard stuff. So I was a daily drinker, started my drinking probably in the last bit of that stint of my alcoholism. I mean, I was drinking daily. I was starting my day with vodka. So, but when it really came down to the end, I actually fell into, it was a relationship issue, blah, blah, blah. And, I fell into a depression, and, for about 10 months, I stayed in bed. Went to two places. I went to my bed, three places, my bed, the bathroom, and the ABC store. And that's basically what I did for 10 months in general. And so this was a couple years, about 4 years ago, I guess. And anyway, not to draw this out, but my next door neighbor happens to be a ER doctor. And so she came over, and I was in bed, and, you know, basically just laying there. I was kind of halfway passed out, and she started putting stuff, you know, doing tests on me right there in my bedroom, and said I basically had to get to the hospital immediately. So went to the doctor, went to the ER, and I was already jaundiced. I knew something was wrong. I didn't really understand cirrhosis, but I knew something was definitely wrong. My belly had started to extend out. I wasn't eating. My stomach was hurting really bad, so I wasn't eating, but I was drinking constantly. And so they call that ascites, where your fluid builds up on your abdomen. So anyway, I'm a big mess. I was like over 300 pounds. I am 6'5", but I was about 325 pounds. Total disaster. So when I went to the hospital, and excuse me. So after a few days, my mother was there with me, and I was told by the doctor that I have alcoholic cirrhosis. And no surprise there, not a shocker. But what my doctor didn't tell me, and what my mother didn't tell me till I was about 4 or 5 days in the hospital, I was told that I had a 50% chance of living in the next 90 days. So I really believe it. Now, when I found that out, the floor really felt like it dropped out from underneath of me. All of my choices from the past 25 years had caught up to me. Now, this was such a shock because here at, back then, I guess I was 52, 53 at that time, but I hadn't been to the hospital. The last time I was at the hospital before that is when I had stitches out, and I cracked my head open when I was like 5, and I had to get stitches. That was the last time I was in the hospital. So I had never, I really wasn't a sickly person, never went to the doctor. So I'd really been, I was given, when I was born, when I got stitches, and when I got cirrhosis. Those were the 3 times I had been in a hospital. And so all of my choices had caught up to me at this point. And so it was like, bam, all this news all at once, that here I thought I was 10 foot tall and bulletproof. I wasn't. And that your body will give in at some point. It's going to cry out for uncle. It's going to be tapping out. I've had it. I can't do anymore. And that was my day. Up to this point, there was always the denials and the excuses. I knew I was an alcoholic. I was probably drinking 15 years before, like drinking heavy 15 years before I was admitting that I was an alcoholic. The last 10 years, I knew I was an alcoholic. I mean, there was no surprises there. But I was in denial that I could stop it at any time. So there was a daily Groundhog Day effect going on, thinking that I could stop this at any time. And so and of course I would have these thoughts every day, and especially at night when I'm sitting there just, thinking about the day and thinking how I just put down, 50 shots of vodka, and now the guilt and the shame come in. And anyway, so, the truth was that alcohol had its claws in me, and had for a very long time. And but that moment at the hospital, it came home to roost. That there was hardly any turning back at this point. What was really hard to handle was the impact that this had on my my loved ones. Sorry about the noise here. But I really didn't have any friends left. I had just a few, just really my mother. I wasn't married at the time, and ruined all that. And I had 5 kids, and so I had kids that they couldn't bear to see it anymore. They just could not watch their father killing himself. And so I had a couple of the kids that were just, weren't talking to me. Actually, all of them weren't talking to me anymore. There was one that would pacify me, but all my kids were grown and gone. But there was one that lived 10 minutes away from me, and he disowned me for a year. And it's not because he hated me. He disowned me for that last year because he was doing that for his own health, his own sanity. He couldn't bear to watch his dad die every single day. Now you would think that getting alcoholic cirrhosis and given 90 days to live, or 50% chance of living in the next 90 days, you would think that would be rock bottom. What I'm finding out is that a rock bottom is often a moving target. And so that wasn't my rock bottom. I did quit drinking for about 3 months after that hospital stay. By the way, if anybody has cirrhosis or knows about it, my bilirubin count was a 14. Normal was like a 0.02 to a 1.2 bilirubin number, and mine was a 14. So I think they sent me home to die is what happened. So anyway, I did quit drinking for 3 months. I did start getting a little better, but the mind wasn't fixed yet. I have an alcoholic mind, and that wasn't treated. So about 3 months later, I started drinking again, knowing that this is going to happen again, knowing that I'm going to get sick. And so I drank for another almost 2 years, a year and a half after that. So the turning point really came. What was that? If it wasn't cirrhosis, if it wasn't you're going to die, what it was the turning point? It was actually emotionally. I picked a great place to do this video. But it was actually emotional. I got to a point I just could not stand myself any longer. Could not stand it any longer. So that was the turning point. Of course, there's a lot that goes into this. There's a lot that I could talk about here. But what was the road to sobriety? Well, personally, I had to. I got to a point where I wanted a do-over. I wanted to start my life completely over and fresh. at 55 years old, and that's what I did. So I was so sick. I was just sick of life. I was sick of living this way, been living this way for so long. And so I knew that I was in such bad physical condition that I probably had to go to detox, have a medical detox done, and that's what I did. I did not go to rehab, but I did go to a 4-day medical detox where they gave me, fluids and monitored me, and I did go through DTs, delirium tremens, and I think that's how you delirium tremors. Anyway. It was bad. And so they did monitor that and kept me as comfortable as they could and made sure I didn't die for that first 4 days. And the first couple weeks were brutal. So what I did next was I had to immerse myself. I wanted to start over. My life sucked. And I wanted to start over. So I got started with Alcoholics Anonymous. And I never turned back. So I started going to meetings every day. I got a sponsor. I started, talking with sober people. I walked into those meetings and I saw people's lives. They were living lives that I wanted. And so that's what I did. Now they say cirrhosis doesn't go away. However, I'm not on any more medication. I was on heart meds. I was on liver medications, several liver medications. They say it doesn't go away. It is scarring of your liver. However, my bilirubin number is like at a 0.02 or 3. It's at the bottom of the normal scale. So I don't know if it's rejuvenated or what do you call it? I'm not a doctor. All I know is my health is fantastic. What really bugged me the most about this whole thing was the ascites. I really want to talk more about that because that was I'm still a little bit vain, and having that is uncontrollable. I mean, when you have this huge amount of fluid that develops on your abdomen, there's nothing you can do about it except have it extracted out. So that when I first went to the hospital, they took off about 12 or 13 liters or something like that. They took out like 15 liters of fluid. You picture what a 2-liter Coke looks like. Well, picture about 8 of those things on your gut. But see, the thing is, when you have this disease, it comes back. So they'll take it out, but then within 5 or 6 weeks, it's back. And so that was something that I thought, and I was talking to the people, the nurses, the technicians who were doing all the treatments all the time. I would have to go every 5 or 6 weeks and have, it's called a paracentesis, where they go in, that's the term used to remove the fluid off your gut. I would have to have this done about every month and a half. And so I would talk to the people there, and I was like, am I going to have to do this the rest of my life? I mean, is this something that I have to do constantly, forever? And they said most of the time, yeah. And so that I got to look forward to that. I got to look forward to never being able to tuck in my shirt again, or looking like that guy with cirrhosis, who's yellow, your eyes are yellow, your body is skinny because you're not eating, but you're skinny, but yet you have this big, huge gut. That's the look of cirrhosis. And I thought that was going to be me for the rest of my life. Well, about 6 months into sobriety, I started noticing that started to go down. And so do I always have cirrhosis? All I know is my liver numbers are fantastic, and I haven't had to have a paracentesis in probably 2 years, year and a half to year and 8 months, something like that. So quitting alcohol was the big thing, but fixing this was the huge thing. And what worked for me, I know it works 100% of the time for the people who work the steps, you know. So but I know people have their different thoughts on that. I go with the millions of people who've been helped by AA over the last 90 years, and it's helping people every single day today. But so I'm going to reference that. I'm going to do a lot of these videos, but I'm going to reference AA. But you know, I know there's other people that like to do other things. The biggest thing is there is help. There are people who are getting free of drugs and alcohol. I am one of them. I wanted to share this story because cirrhosis is real. The last numbers I heard is that alcohol alone is killing 400,000 people just in America every year. And so, and I'm sure those numbers go up every year too. So this is a disease. Alcoholism is a disease, and it will kill you. And I am proof. I came to the edge. I came to the last possible edge, right at the cliff, before I was another statistic. So there is hope. I am living proof. I'm around people every day who are living proof. And but if you have cirrhosis, I'm telling you, if you're anything like me, you can get better. It might not feel like it now. It might suck. The outcome, you're thinking about the rest of your life of what it could be. Well, the first thing you can do right now is stop putting that poison in your body. You stop doing that. That is number one. Number two, you got to get help. You have to get around people that have been treated. I don't want to say cured, because I think I always have an alcoholic mind. But and then you have to get spiritual help too. But I'm going to tell you, on the other side, there is a life that you never thought possible. I never thought it was possible to be sober and happy, and I am both today. So anyway, I'm starting to ramble. Hope you guys can get something out of this, and I will talk to you on the next one.